you have started watching National India News, and this is me, Anwarul Huda. So, recently, Arnav has been arrested and he was just, sent to judicial custody. But the thing is, there is just not one Arnav. We have several people, anchored like Arnav in different newsroom who are consistently fueling hatred, spreading false information, and sometimes going beyond their limits and have created atmosphere of chaos, and sometimes it has just gone beyond and has created a scene of clashes, communal violence, and these news anchors in different newsrooms shamelessly serving their political masters. They are being like indirectly propagating the right-wing ideology and completely exploiting their positions, and by really keeping their audience in dark. Today with me to discuss this current media politics scenario is Sumit Chauhan, the founding editor of the Shudra, and Dr. Manisha Bangar, who is founder and managing editor of National India News. I welcome you both.
Thank you, Anur.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, the first question I would like to ask you, Sumit, can you really explain this phenomena? There are many journalists and there are many news anchors who are consistently trying to create this environment of hatred and communal violence, and this carrying the BJP propagandas. Yet we have not seen uh, anytime soon, like any home minister, tweeting about a news anchor and expressing his solidarity and saying that we are like the home minister saying that we are in the situation of in the emergency. Can you explain this phenomena, what is going on between Arnab Goswami and the BJP?
Yeah, thank you, Anwarul, for having me, and thanks to the audience of National India News. Actually, we call the media as the fourth pillar of democracy, but it is not actually. It is the fourth pillar, private limited, the full name which is Dilip Mandal Sahab had given to his book, Chauda Khamba Private Limited. So it's a private limited company. And we should call it the media companies, not the media houses, because media companies, a company means it works for the profit and loss theory only. They works for their, profit. They works for their advancement of their company. So the mainstream media, I call it monostream media, they are just working for the business purpose, not for the welfare of the democracy or the India or the Indian people and the other issues related to the people. So for particular reason, they just need money. They want to have more profit, and that profit comes from the government sides. So they are just serving to the masters and their propaganda machine, not the democratic media houses of the country. They are just serving to the masters because they get many advertisements from the government agencies, from the ministries, and so on. So they have a business connection with the government actually. So through that business a connection, through that advertisement, they can manipulate, they can argue with them, they can ask them to run a story or to stop them. So the propaganda machine is there actually. They are just doing the propaganda, so they are not working for the country. So I feel the nexus between journalism and this media company is there, and there is nothing like journalism, particularly for the Indian media, because they are not doing it. They are just serving the government. And media means that they need to raise questions to the person who is ruling the country, who is making the policy, who is doing something for the people, and who is answerable and accountable. But they are not doing it. They are not asking questions to the government. They are asking questions to the opposition. They are asking to the questions to the activists and people who are just raising voice against the supremacy of government or anything like that. So in my opinion, this media, the monostream media, is not at all a media. It's a company, and company only works for the profit only.
Right. Adding to these points, Dr. Manisha Bangar, I would like to ask you that other than the government, there has been like bunch of journalists who over the period of time has earned credibility. You know, they really have earned respect, and they have been like vocal about people's issue. They are doing shows which talks about people. Yet these anchors and these journalists have expressed their solidarity towards Arnav. So can you explain this? Like, you know, what's going on? Like they were like literally criticizing the kind of the thing. Like it's really not appropriate to call the thing to call it journalism. What Arnav has been really doing, but. But these journalists have actually expressed their solidarity and like, you know, tweeted and have like written blogs and everything. So what is going on like, you know, within the mainstream industry as well? Yeah.
So that's a very relevant question, and we have come very much to the point where we're talking about Arnab's case specifically. And I feel that we need to go a little bit behind into the background. I guess Sumit has already elaborated what the reality of media in our country. For that matter, from the outset, if you take rulers and the people who are being ruled, or you take governments and the people who form the government and the people who are being ruled, whether it is a representative government or monarchical government or whatever. And if we go before the time the British came, we again keep the same skeletal framework of the rulers and the being ruled. We see that essentially the framework has remained same as far as media is concerned. And the entire way the politics and the social system is shaped up, it is kept in place. And as earlier on, media is not anything which kind of from the notion also, as well as from the word also, it's not something which will work for democracy, or it is not something which will talk for the people's rights. But if you take the simple word, the dictionary meaning also, it's a channel or it's a conduit. It's a via media. It's something through which, information or whatever has to go. So during the times of the kings and during the times of the rulers, when there was no democracy and it was monarchy or imperialism, that time it was their order, their what they had to tell the public, and then subsequently it came into changing the mind of the people, whether if at all the king could not be the ruler and somebody else has had to come and take place, or if the king had died and still they did not want to declare that he had died and that the younger brother will take over, so it was all manipulation. So media was, again, I would like to reiterate the same thing, that it was a propaganda. And therefore, whether and it's something which is always has been and will ever remain the tool of the rulers. It has never really come to be a part of the democratic setup or the part of the democratic principles as such. And therefore, to expect that thing from the media is something which is again very, very flimsy. I feel so. We come to what is happening in India. That's another thing totally. But what I mean to say is that it could be all this while, the propaganda machine has been used to manufacture consent. That's a very famous phrase in media alliance when we quote Noam Chomsky, and many more people have elaborated on that. So it's something which manufactures consent. And after the democratic principles and adult franchise came, media has essentially been used to manufacture consent. So earlier, it didn't matter to the rulers whether your consent is there or not. They just had to do their thing. But now it's become mandatory, and they want to put up a show of taking your consent and doing it for you. And then they always can say that, yeah, look, we had your consent, and that's why we are doing what we are doing, So that's how it goes. Now, coming to the fact that if at all it is there, so the scriptures form via media for these people. The folk songs, the folk culture, what they wrote in their Tampatra, everything. So traditional media, and then their religious thing, as well as their own people, whether they were saints, so-called saints, or babas or babis, everything was their media. And it was something which was used to manufacture consent and to let people accept their slavery with their consent. It was something of that sort. Now, coming to what happened after independence, so-called independence, the same thing is kept in place. So the ruling class again has the control over the media or propaganda. The same things are used to manufacture consent of the people and provide disinformation, provide misinformation, provide wrong information, there, and it cannot be called information at all. And it uses traditional media. India has been a little very different from other places in that it has continued to use primitive traditional media even today. And it has continued to manufacture lies, whether howsoever unscientific they may be, howsoever blatant lies they may be, they have used it. And then the final thing which has been is that even after the advent of technology, they have gone in to continue using electronic media or electronic technology as well as print technology in their favor. And now coming to your question, having given this background, having said what I've said just now, I come to the thing that what is this queer phenomenon which you saw? That people who were supposedly liberal, supposedly progressive, supposedly talking for democracy, supposedly protecting democracy, how come they have come in support of Arnab, who has been recognized as or has been identified as anti-democratic or in the right-wingers camp? So how do we explain this? Now, this can be only explained with the fact that you have to bust there are three myths, first of all. But before we bust the myths, we need to know one thing, that all the kind of media is in the hand of the ruling class. And in India, the ruling class is the upper caste or the Dvijas or the upper caste Brahmin Savarna, as it is known in academic parlance as well as popular parlance. So this particular technology never having come into the hands of the subalterns, never having come into the hands of the oppressed, of the women, of other identities which people identify themselves with, this has remained in the hand of the ruling class. And whether it has, the ruling class in India has been also the domain of the liberal class as well as the right wingers. So the ruling class is the one, whether liberal or progressive, it's within their purview and it's within their own camp. And that is precisely why your identities and understandings go beyond democratic feelings, beyond close associations, beyond humanity concerns, beyond gender concerns. They go beyond concerns. And India being a very what you call caste-based hierarchical society, the affinities lie only with their own caste men or caste women and caste people. And therefore, these people who spoke in for Arnab, they did not identify him as a media person. They did not identify him as a person who should have spoken for democracy. And all the while, then they were targeting him that he isn't and that he is a rabid dog. And there have been many nomenclatures and phrases which were coined, whether it was Godi media or Bika Hua media or whatever. And he was seen as the most rabid and the most truant personification of a right-winger male. But despite that, when he was taken into gaol or when he was taken into custody, it is the liberal class who is also the ruling class. They felt a lot shocked and stunned, because according to their sensibilities and caste sensibilities and the ruling caste sensibilities, upper caste sensibilities, having an upper caste Brahmin male behind bars is something that is not their game. They don't want that game. It's okay if journalists who are from the scheduled caste and OBC background or subaltern background, if they are into gaol, if they are put in jail without trial, if they run media trial, if Arnab goes on running media trial, and if he is in jail for the very same reason, that not only that his name has popped up in the suicide note, I mean, that is a very fair ground. But you see that Sonia Singh from NDTV, you see Rajat Sharma from Times Now, India Today, and you see Bhattacharya from Times Now, and all these people immediately, even the Editors Guild of India, Seema Mustafa and Sanjay and what's his good name? Arhant or I am missing that name. So all these three people from the Editors Guild, within a 1 hour of that fact that he was arrested, they came up with an apology. They gave an apologetic thing that the state has to protect Arnab. Now this is totally shocking to us. I mean, and that's why we have to understand that it is their caste sensibilities which came up rather than their notion of being a voice for pro-democratic voices.
Exactly. They just want to add something because the Savarna people, the Brahmin people, those who are so-called liberal, they have a privilege to move from one side to another side with a soft thing because we don't have that privilege. They can, one side they can be, opponent or the critic of the particular person, but another side they can also support, no, in the name of democracy, we should, support Arnav, we should save the democracy. So these people are very, they have a genuine connection. I call it genuine connection they have, and they are just working for that. That's why they are calling him, because earlier they were just criticizing that whatever Arnab is doing is not journalism, but suddenly just because of and he's arrested for the particular personal reason, he's not arrested for the journalistic thing because he's not doing it exactly. So they have that privilege, and the genuine connection is the most common thing which is connecting them to the dots.
Precisely,
Yeah.
and I think that it was so clear they didn't even feel the need to verify for why he has been arrested. What are the realities behind his arrest? And they didn't even feel the need. This particular arrogance, this particular superfluousness, this particular thing which comes with their class privilege and class power and caste power. This is what emboldens them. And unfortunately, from the other side, that is from the subaltern side, there are not voices which will reach them, or they are not even giving the space for the voices to come up. And that is the reason why, though we are speaking, it's not that subalterns are not speaking, academics are speaking, journalists are speaking, but they are not made heard.
Yeah, I mean, really, thank you. Like, you guys have, both of you have made very interesting points in this discussion. But just talking on the same line about the caste connections and the kind of the people in the newsrooms and the terms Sumit has mentioned. I really want to ask to you, Sumit, that is there really a connection between the kind of reports we see, the faces which are missing from these mainstream reports? Like, they usually talk about the Pakistan, the China, the Korea, the things which doesn't actually matter very much to the people who are living here in India. And the real issues of people, employment, poverty, their agricultural issues, their job issues, and everything has been missing. So what I want to ask is that the issues of Bahujan has been mainly missing from these mainstream reports. So is there really a connection between the kind of people they are and and the kind of reports they are presenting? So is there a issue of representation, or it's just a corporate thing, or there is a caste involved? How these things are, this whole complex structure? Can you just talk about it? Like, why Bahujan issues doesn't come in mainstream?
See, as far as mainstream or the monostream media is concerned, it is just corporate media companies which are working for profit. But still, the Brahmin Banya community, they have a huge hold of the media companies. They are running the media houses, and people, those who are there, who are decision maker, who are into editorial, they are selecting the issues which has to be raised. And now we have multiple information that debates of the prime time debates things and the particular shows are already decided by the ruling party. They send a WhatsApp message and a message to the editors of the particular news channel that what kind of content you have to use it for the debate or to make a particular episode on that. So things are decided by them, but still the matter of representation is also there, because we as a Bahujan journalist, we don't have I have been working with the ABP News, Zee News, India News, and News Nation. These are the very famous Hindi news channels of the India. But in during my entire job career, I never find a single Dalit journalist who is working in those particular media houses, media companies. But caste slurs are there, casteist approach are there, caste-based discrimination is there. I have faced the caste discrimination in ABP News, India News, and Z News itself. In everywhere, wherever I go, was like it is there because people from particular community are there, and they don't think on particular issue from the Bahujan eye. See, if we have a women panelist there, so now we cannot abuse, we cannot say anything because we know that there is a woman, and on some particular issue says more, she can elaborate the thing from her perspective. As a man, we cannot imagine that, and we cannot go for that. But if your Bahujan journalist is not there from that community, who will decide the matters when the decision making process is going on, when you are selecting the stories, when you are phrasing the ideas that we should go for this, we should have this, nobody is there from your community, so they never look at the point कि ये भी जरूरी है, this is important, they don't find it. So as far as the Bahujan journalists are there is no journalist, there is no single editor who is from Dalit background or who is running the media houses in the mainstream house. I would love to give you some examples of the different research which are conducted through several times. In 1995-96 around, I guess, Janeth K. Cooper, who was the South Asian head of the Washington Post in India at that time, he conducted a survey, and he conducted a survey with the name of In Search of a Dalit Journalist, and they published that particular piece in the Pioneer of that time. They find a single Dalit journalist in the entire newsrooms of the India or the newspapers or anything like that. In 2006, Yogendra Yadav, Anil Chamadia, and another one, they conducted a survey. They sent a questionnaire to 35 news channels and the media companies that is there any Dalit person, is there any OBC person who is the holding the decision maker post. They find nothing because there is nobody, not a single Dalit was sitting on a decision making post. So who tells our stories also matters. So in 2019, I think News Laundry and the Oxfam, they also conduct a survey in the search of Dalit journalists in the Indian newsroom. So they conducted a survey of I guess 101 one-to-one newsrooms, and they look after the leadership position like editor-in-chief, managing editor, executive editor, bureau chief, or something like that. Those who are taking decisions, because you can find some Dalit journalists like me at a producer post or a senior producer or most likely like executive producer. So when you are into editing or copy or scripting, that just like a labor work you are doing, but you are not taking the decision, because decision is coming from the editor side. The decision is coming from the shift in charge that what stories has to be raised. So we are not on that position. So in 121 newsrooms, 106 more than 100 posts were occupied by the upper caste. So these posts were occupied only by the Brahmin Baniya communities, those who are running the Indian media houses. 5% of that were occupied by the OBC, and none of the post was occupied by the Dalit journalists. So if from our community people are not there, they will never look at the matter as we can say, because we are the victim. We know what is caste, we know what is the caste atrocities, we know what is untouchability. They don't think it. They don't look at the same lens on reservation issue. They find it nothing, like this is useless for them. So that's the main reason, that because of the less representation, they are not covering the stories or the issues related to SC/ST OBC. But yeah, just to divert the issues and to set the propaganda to, as Manisha ma'am have said, Noam Chomsky's that term manufacturing consent. So you are manufacturing the consent of the audience, and you are making that audience, to think in that particular way. Like if something, the corona issue is there, you are not talking about corona, but you're talking about the Pakistan, the China, that Pakistan is going to bankrupt, or China is going to attack, or we are preparing warmongering is there. So you're just diverting the issue so that government can run its propaganda. They can work like that, whatever, because there is no opposition, there is nothing to raise questions. So that's the only reason, in my opinion, that they are not focusing on Bahujan issues.
Right. So, taking the point which Sumit is mentioning about, the involvement of corporates and how they are actually just shaping the news, and they are actually deciding what is gonna go in headlines today or in the breaking news, or whatever the reports is. Manisha ma'am, I would like to ask you that how difficult is to survive, to run an alternative space, without corporate fundings, without corporate interventions. Given the context that these alternative space are highly depends on the kind of viewership we are getting and the kind of audience engagements we are having. So, what kind of challenges these alternative space are facing?
See, the first and foremost thing one needs to understand is that at least there are many people from the Bahujan background, the SC/ST, OBC, and minority background, those who have taken help of the social media and technology which has come in. Every other person has a smartphone in his hand, and this has some a kind of a revolution which has occurred in the past 5-7 years, and has opened up many vistas for the people from this marginalized alt background. At least they are able to raise their voices and communicate things. We are often quoted. We have seen how things have shaped up in Egypt. They have shaped up in Arabian countries. They shaped up in world over. In fact, you take Black Lives Matter, or you take the amount of challenge that Boris Johnson had to face regarding Brexit, and even during Corona times when people and governments were passing off and selling off, badgering literally the people and ramming into their heads news and information which was unscientific, absolutely unsubstantiated. The social media platform actually help people in empowering themselves with some information, and I feel that a lot of the misery which would have normally occurred had the social media not been in hands of the subalterns. Things would have been totally different. The amount of misery would have been many times more. Having said that, there are a lot of restrictions and there are a lot of limitations to this new founded freedom with the smartphone which has come in your hand. Why? Because then with this also you have mega companies and mega formations, whether in form of Facebook or YouTube or any of these platform, Twitter. So you take Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg or YouTube head. They have always been in the question, whether in the US or any other country. And governments who have done good, if it has been Canada or New Zealand or any other country, or especially even Chancellor of Germany, they have done good in Corona times. Why do I want to give you this example of Corona? Because pandemic and health related issues are something which every other humanitarian or every other human being identifies themselves with, where you cannot be partisan, where you cannot take a skewed opinion, whether you can't afford to be prejudiced. But even in this milieu, people and organizations who have sucked up to power and who have sucked up to people who hold power, especially in the US and countries like India and Southeast Asia, these are these people have not, or rather failed to hold accountable the private organizations which have made a kind of a big name or have a control over social media platforms. So YouTube has got a code of conduct for US and other Western countries, but when it comes to India, then it has got in its higher ranking people the same upper caste, upper class people, and they apply the same sanctions and they can curtail all the information. They curtail how much of it will go into the public domain. So they have power over you. They have still power over you. And these upper caste, upper class people who own media houses also have their social media outlets, and they are run by their anti-democratic feelings and casteist feelings, or divisive feelings for that matter. With the party coming in power, now that we have Trump in power, there's a very nice thing which I read somewhere, that people are ecstatic and upbeat that the liberal government is in power, and that something will change dramatically. So what is the basic understanding and what is which has come up is that America has always been racist. It has always held white supremacy. It has always held, things which were divisive, but they were suppressed because of prominence which has been given to American Declaration of Independence and the democratic values and people who were committed to democratic values. And with the coming up of right-wing government, they got a free lease of air. They got a fresh air. Same thing has happened here in India. But it isn't that India is not a casteist society. It is quite a casteist society. It is quite a communal society. And on top of it, if you have a government, then these class of people who form the oppressor class, they get a fresh lease of life. They get a fresh avenues to carry on their agenda. They carry on their hierarchical agenda. So that is how it is, how the whole thing works. And this is the major challenge. It's whether you talk about the mega companies, the multinational companies, in the retail or manufacturing or industrial background, or you talk about media. Media is a company, basically. It's a business. It's an organization. And because the same people are in power here, Jack Dorsey, when he came, there were issues which were raised, but then Jack Dorsey had to literally, cut a sorry figure, because those people who are handling Twitter in India, they again belong to the same caste to which Arnab Goswami belongs. So they will have a sensitivity, right? And this is a major challenge. Then the second challenge which comes to alternative media, which has been started by Bahujans, is it comes from financial, capital which is needed. The financial capital which is needed, which has to be kept in place, because these platforms cannot run on the so-called self-sustaining model. They do work for the upper class people, but they don't really work for the Bahujan class, because sanctions are repeatedly bought on the YouTube channel, the videos that you put, the material which you are putting. There have been multiple instances that in and around the election, the number of videos which were being shared, the number of things, there was a constant curtailment. Even prominent journalists from the Bahujan background, their Facebook things have been closed, their accounts have been unfoundedly, without any reason, closed for long durations. So this high-handedness has been a part. Also, the journalist, for example, Prashant Kanojan, we can have a total list of names in which they have had a personal space, whether it is through Twitter or whether it is through any of the social media platform, and they have been curtailed in various ways. So this entire thing plays to a large extent in the social media arena. And final challenge, and the biggest challenge, which I feel is got to do not with so much with technology, but it has got to do with the way the culture of this country goes, the culture and the nuances of this country goes. What is the culture and nuance of the country? Here, somehow, because the caste hierarchy and the caste supremacism has been so much part of each and every cultural way, whether it is festival or the way the things are upheld. So what has happened is that it has been tuned into people's mind. It has ingrained very deeply. It has gone literally deeply into their sensibilities and their sensitivities, that whatever the upper caste and upper caste person says, it is something that they take with a grain of trust. They take it with something that, okay, he's saying, that means it's true. This is something which earlier on also was upheld. Even if the Brahmin says something false, he is not to be doubted. He is not to be questioned. He has to be taken for whatever he is saying. And exactly the same thing operates. So if a Brahmin journalist, upper caste journalist says something, even the subalterns feel, in their own introspection and thinking that, yeah, maybe he's right. And the entire thing pervades and it percolates into the thinking pattern of the Bahujans and the subalterns. And it's kind of pretty oppressive, but that's the truth. That suppose, if Subhit is saying something, if Dr. Manisha is saying something, if Dilip Mandal or Mahendra Yadav or if Mesh Donia or Nitin Meshram or any of these people, or I have so many, Anim Chamaria, all the people who are from the Bahujan background and are journalists, if they are saying something, even the people from the subalterns do not really readily believe them. And that has got to do with Brahminism or the ideology of upper caste hegemony. This hegemony has gone into the minds of the people, and this is a major challenge. That is what I feel, the trust that they have. And it's easy. That actually is the thing which the liberal, upper caste liberal journalists bank upon, whether it is Sharma or Shukla or Pandey or some Kumar here and there. All these people, they are banking on this particular thing because when they say something, they are able to get the acceptability and what you call in Hindi the vishwasniyata, the trustfulness of the people. अरे ये बोल रहा है सच ही बोल रहा होगा, you know, he is saying that and he has to be believed. And if a subaltern is saying, then yeah, you know, he's saying something, we'll have to testify that, we'll have to find out. So this kind of attitude is also a major worry. Now coming to the last thing, actually I am not from the journalist background, but this is what many people had to come, many people had to do. They had to literally take a plunge in this arena because our people being killed, our people being lynched, our people are being, you know, in universities or every other space, women everywhere, and they are not being given the voice. We have the voice, we can speak, but we are not being given the platform. So we have to raise our own platform. So that was the reason why I had to, at an individual level, take a plunge in this, despite me being a doctor and despite having a social background. And this was not I had fathomed for myself at all, but I had to take a plunge.
Yeah, and this is like really this kind of initiative was really much needed, and you have done like a really a good job. You know, just throughout, you know, in the history, like since these television have been privatized, we are seeing the kind of reports they are, you know, they are showing, the kind of journalism they are doing, and the kind of, you know, the shows they are just covering, the issues they are raising. All they have is to serve their political masters. You know, just from the same point, there's another question I would like to ask to Sumit, that you know, not in India, but you know, this corporate media connection is, you know, is all over the world, right? But we have not seen, you know, these kind of you know, the credibility crisis, if I can say, like, you know, the credibility crisis. Like, we have more than 30 Hindi mainstream news channels, and almost none of them are really credible enough for a sane person. I'll say for a sane person, there's none of a, you know, like news channel are credible enough. But there are several other platforms, you know, the international platforms, which the Indian people also seek. You know, even they prefer watching them for their own news, you know, for their own issue. So, like, can you really talk about it in a more detail? Is just the corporate politics connection, or is just, or is just the kind of, you know, is inhuman attitude, or is just the casteist attitude towards majority of the people who they feel, they believe that they are inferior to them? Sumit.
See, in my opinion, the simple answer to your question is that it is just a matter of casteist mindset. As far as the, you know, outside media, the foreign media is concerned, they are working for their own things. Like BBC, we call it the so-called liberal media, but it has compelled our colleague Beena Kotwal to commit suicide. Almost she was, you know, committing suicide just because of the casteist discrimination she was facing in the BBC. So when it is in India, the outside the foreign media is into, you know, Indian side, who is holding the post of that particular media houses, which are foreign media houses? Only the upper caste people, and they have the casteist mindset because of the upbringing, because of the social conditioning, because they are being taught to the, you know, that they are superior, they caste is, they belong to the clean and the pure race of the entire Indian subcontinent. So they have that mindset and they start practicing it, and they never find it in practicing that it is unfair, it is, you know, something very bad, because people are all over the globe fighting for the equality, for the equal opportunities, because because that's the basic human right, that you should be treated as a human, a co-human being. But media houses, because it is run by the people, those who belong to a particular community, a particular caste, so that's why they just only look at the issues through their class, that caste angle only. So that's why they don't care about. And people, those who are running the media houses, they are just serving to the masters, they are just serving to their masters, so they don't care about the credibility at all. Because credibility, earlier it was a matter of that, according to your TRP or according to your readership, advertisement rate will be paid to you. But there was a sense of credibility, that you have to be credible to the people, so that people can trust you, people can talk about you, that this newspaper or the media house is good and giving you the right information. But right now they don't care about it, because their business is not run by the audience. Almost every channel is free to air. They don't charge for the subscription of their channel. They don't charge for the anything which is given to you in the news things, into business of news. So they are not based on the revenue which is coming from the audience, but they are running their propaganda machine through the advertisement from the government and the corporate houses. And corporate houses which are giving them advertisement are also not worried about the content which is given by them. We just recently, we have some examples by the Bajaj or the Parle-G, that they somehow they took the decision that we will not give the advertisement to the hate mongering news channels. That was a good step. More and more corporate people should come up, because ultimately it's a business of news and they're just working for the profit, so they have to take care about the profit thing. So they will they should be compelled to serve the better. And the audience which is looking for the content, they are watching their news channels, they are reading their newspaper or anything like that, they should also be more literate. The media literacy should be there, they should be more aware about what is happening. Because earlier there was a time when something which was published in the newspaper was taken as a truth, that it is the universal truth. It is, "Arey bhai, akhbar mein chhap gaya tha." It was like that. But now people are, understanding what is happening around, how things are being made, how things are being served to them. So they are looking at in that area. And now audience, they are more educated, they are more literate, and more literacy, media literacy, I say it should be there, so that they can raise questions to the media houses, that whatever you are doing. In my opinion, the people of the India, they in large people, the Bahujan committee and the marginalized section of the society, they should carry a dharna to the newsroom of the film city of Noida. They should go there and have a dharna, because what you are serving to them, what you are giving, you are accountable, you are calling yourself as the fourth pillar of the democracy, Chota Khamba. But what you are doing, you are spreading the hate. How many people are being lynched because of the hate? It was coming from the media. It was circulating through the media channels only. So we should have a dharna on the film city. So the people, those who are the audience, they should also ask questions to the journalists. And now we have seen that people are asking questions. Many viral videos are there where people are saying to media person, "Go away, we don't need Godi media, or we don't need you, just go away, we don't trust you." So the things are coming back. So but till today, the corporate media companies, they don't care about the credibility, because they are into profit through the government side and the different corporate houses. So as far as their profit is concerned, they will never look at the credibility, because they don't care about it.
Right. Uh, you guys have really brought some really interesting perspective to this whole conversation, and we are just now in our end segment of this discussions, and I would really love to have your final comments on how dangerous is the corporate media and the politics nexus. Ma'am, I'll ask you first.
See, Anuru, the thing is, we need to understand that this is basically it's not as much as it is information, but it is about power politics and power. It's a war, or it's a kind of a struggle between those who are subalterns and held back, because the unless information, if at all, is knowledge, and knowledge liberates, then this kind of misinformation and disinformation will keep people in perpetual slavery. So this has to be understood. Second thing which has to be understood is that people who fought against this oppression, which has got a casteist and hierarchical value to it, unlike America, where it is race. Here it is casteism, it has to be recognized, and the same phenomenon plays out very well in media. That has to be totally understood to begin with. Thirdly, people who media and liberation, as well as people who talked against or took media in their hands to liberate their people, or at least take the values which humanity, whether it is humanitarian or liberating values or democratic values, whatever it is, they raised their own media. So we have people like Dr. Ambedkar, never ever depending on the media of the oppressor class. We never had Periyar Ramasamy depending on the media of the oppressor class, and that autonomy has to be there. If at all the subalterns and oppressed people, who are forming the 90% of this country's majority population, and the minorities, so-called religious minorities, the Muslims, if they keep on depending on the oppressor class media, those who are oppressing, and putting them into a of course they should be always held responsible and accountable. They have to continuously be challenged, that is true, but the thing is that having your own media and autonomous media is definitely the need of the day. It has always been for the past 40 years, but it was always relegated into the background. That has to come into the forefront, what I feel. And then at the also we have to totally understand 2-3 things. One is we have to bust a few myths. First myth is that that media is a fourth pillar of democracy. This myth has to be busted, and it has to be busted in a very organized in a perpetual manner. This has definitely gone on to deify the media. For example, there was a time like 20 years ago, wherever, that's a normal phenomenon. Wherever the upper class people have a hegemony, they deify it and they make it superhuman. And, they almost take it to the level of calling it a demigod. So judges, media men, people, it's considered as if something coming out of their mouth is coming out of the voice of the god, of it's a prophecy kind of a thing. This deification has to be busted. That is the first bust that we have to make. Secondly, thing has to be busted that the liberal media and the progressive media, so-called progressive media, and the right-wing media or the anti-democratic media is a part of the same game, and they are part of the same camp. This has to be brought into place, and this has to be made understood. The myth has to be busted that liberal media is different and right-wing media is different. This is a myth. This myth has also to be busted totally. And third, I feel is that we have to understand that the liberal media, for example, if you take Dr. Ambedkar's literature, we have to take lessons from the predecessors. We have to take lessons from that. You find almost 1/4 of Dr. Ambedkar's literature, 1/4 of Periyar's literature, and all the subaltern, academicians and people who literally led people's movement, whether Lalit Singh Yadav or Thakur Vikar Singh or the Naam Chudra movement in Bengal, everywhere, they literally did not depend on the media, and they were hounded by the liberal media. So Dr. Ambedkar was not so much hounded by the right-wing media or the Hindu Masava as much as he was hounded by the Congress and the liberal media and Gandhi media. So this has to be totally understood. That is exactly the same when racial equality is being fought for. When racial equality is being fought for, the first enemy for them is the liberal media. And if caste equality and communal equality is what we are fighting for, then the liberal media is the first that has to be taken into account. Because the right-wing media is a self-evident media. One does not need any media literacy for that. But media literacy is needed for this. So I feel that with this word, I would like to, this is my concluding thing on your question. Thank you.
Sumit, to you, like how dangerous this political media and the corporate nexus is?
Anvil, it's been a decade that I'm into mainstream, monostream media. I was working there only this June. I have resigned from the News Nation, and now I'm just working with my Shudra Ambedkar media. I don't have a TV at my home, and I don't watch TV. See, so I know that this is dangerous, the poisonous thing. You cannot go with the TV, basically the media. You cannot tolerate them. But still, if you are not watching that a TV channel, doesn't mean that they are not creating the environment which is dangerous to you. Recently, my colleague Meena Kotwal was almost lynched in the Prime Minister's rally by the supporters of the Prime Minister. On one hand, he was speaking about the women's security, and another hand, in the rally premises itself, she and her camera person was almost lynched. So they are creating the environment of hate. They are creating unsafe environment for you, for your family, for your generation, because that is something very serious. My wife is a Muslim. I was asked to write something in script. I was a senior producer with the News Nation, so I was asked to write a script on Mewat region of Haryana, and the title of the issue was Bharat mein Pakistan, where Indian constitution doesn't work. Bharat mein ye kaisa Hindustan, Bharat mein Pakistan. So when I was writing it, I said, no, I cannot go with the things which you are mentioning, because I have somebody in my home, I have somebody in my family who is a Muslim, and I'm creating something dangerous environment for her, because she's worried about go outside to go outside or to roam freely, because I am the person who is creating the environment through that media particularly. So that's why there are multiple reasons that I quit the media, mainstream media. So they are creating very, very dangerous environment right now, and the corporate media houses, they don't care about any democratic values, and it is very dangerous. We have seen multiple mob lynching of the Dalit people, Muslims people, minority peoples who are being lynched because of the so-called beef or anything like that. So, and they are protecting them. In a way, they are creating the environment where they're just running the propaganda, and they're celebrating the inhuman activity of those particular people. So, and they are not raising questions. If a mob lynching is happened in the Prime Minister's rally, they are not asking question. None of the journalists from the so-called liberal and the mainstream media, they never tweet any. There is not a single tweet from the liberal community itself for the Meena Kotwal, for Prashant Kanodia, and the people from our community who are arrested just because of raising questions against the government. So what kind of liberalization or the liberal media of them? The Kumar who are hiding the Pandey, the Kumar who are hiding the Jha title, the Kumar who are hiding the Sharma title. So what kind of people they are, and why they are hiding the Janeau inside their shirt? The Janeau doesn't not visible to you. You cannot see it through your eyes, because that is inside, and you're hiding it inside. So you're practicing that Janeau connection. So the Janeau connection is very dangerous for the particularly I see for Bahujan people and the minority section and women also, it is very dangerous, and they're creating very, very dangerous environment for us. And we should raise our voice. We should start our own media houses. We should focus on alternate media houses. And our Bahujan community, they just don't, please don't watch any news channel. Don't watch it, because they don't talk about you and they don't care about you. The person who is running something for you, like National India News or any other media venture, Ambedkarite media venture, more and more media ventures should be there, which are talking about the human values, which are talking about the human rights and the issues related to SC, ST, OBC, minority and women and the third gender itself. So that has to be done there, and the corporate media have no hope from them. I have no hope.
Right, totally, absolutely.
That's one thing that is, I totally agree with Sumit. And taking this opportunity of the discussion, I would like to implore to people who are listening and many more to carry on this word that yes, the TV connection and the TV channels are totally not in place in my house for the past 20 years. And still many people like us, and Sumit has already said that, I would like to again emphasize that we have not been disadvantaged in any way. Not being able to see news on TV has not disadvantaged us in any simple matter as well. On the
exactly, I was working in the news channel, but I never, I was not watching any news channel, so there was no harm. There was no disadvantage. Even I was taking a lot of salary from them.
and what is more important is that why Arnab has to be targeted, or why Arnab has to be made accountable. How why we should be unsparing about him, because what he says and what those people say, they have a profound impact on the people who hear them, and it plays with their lives. It has costed lakhs of lives. It has costed if you take the corona death, it has cost them. If you take the Mazdoor, all the laborers who were running, and if you take the Delhi pogrom, you take all the pogroms which has happened in this country, it has played with the lives of the people. It has literally created pogroms and created riots. So it's high time that these people have to be called out, and we have to be unsparing, irrespective of the fact whether the liberal media is calling them out or not. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if I can really sum up this whole conversation, then it will be like, we really need to strengthen the alternative space we have. We really need to have space which are more like empower those spaces, coming together, doing collaboration, instead of relying or just going for these mainstream media. These mainstream media, the kind of trend they are running is totally dangerous. The kind of shows they are doing, the kind of this guy from Z News, some Sudhir, I just don't remember his full name. He has just created a whole chart of jihad, like it's unbelievable, unbelievable. The way this guy Amish Devgan, he does his show is totally unbelievable. I can't imagine watching, it's really too much for a sane person to watch these guys. These guys can really give heart attacks to the people who are who have some problems. The way they shot, the way they engage with the audience. So it's really, I totally agree with you guys that we should totally stop watching these television, and we really need to empower these alternative spaces which actually based on the democratic values, which actually talking about the human issues, which actually bringing the questions of our people, and the and questioning the government. So I really thank you, both of you, to for having just to coming over this discussions, and just talking about your points and sharing these interesting perspective. And I really thank all the audience who have been watching and just making comments. Whatever you feel, what are your thoughts on, just please write us in our comment box and tell us what do you feel about your mainstream media, and what is your experience about mainstream media. This is me, Anwarul Huda. You was watching National India News. Thank you so much.
चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और ताज़ा अपडेट पाने के लिए बेल आइकन को दबाना ना भूलें।